Hi all, welcome to BLR Knowledge Center. And in this today's session, we'll talk about ASPStateDB, like how SessionId is going to store in ASPStateTempSessions table. So ASPStateDB is one of the configuration to maintain session state in out process. So where we can store our session related ASP session related information into database SQL server. The database name called ASPStateDB. And from there, it is going to retrieve your session object in the serialization format, and then it is going to have related entries in the ASPStateDB with ASPStateTempSessions and ASPStateTemp application tables. And further, I think based on the job and the queue, procedure which you have in the ASPStateDB, it is going to monitor your ASP sessions based on the session timeout, and then it is going to remove from the ASP state temp sessions. Now, especially this today's topic especially is about how SessionId is storing in your ASP state temp sessions table. And let me talk about this a little bit in detail. So, sorry, the Microsoft documentation itself tells us that the SessionId column within ASP state temp sessions table consists of session ID and the app ID. So app ID, again, it's going to be stored in the ASPStateTemp applications. Let me get into the system very quickly. And this is my ASPStateDB. So where I have application is this one. And this ASP state application temp applications table is having the applications which you are configured in your IAS, and it is going to having application ID here. And this table is having all the sessions, right? So what are all the sessions you have against all the websites you have created in your web server, that is IAS. All the sessions are going to store here. It's created and expires and log date local, log cookie, timeout log, and the session in terms short and session item long flags. These are the default columns for ASPStateTempSessions. But here the question and the topic was how the session ID column is having our actual session ID plus application ID. If you look at here, my application ID was, when I run this, if you look at here, my application ID was this one, right? But when I look at here, I even not observing any session ID column entry having app ID, right? So this is a bit of confusion. So when user looks at here in ASPStateDB and these tables, so he will not look at the actual session ID like having it in entry with app ID. So there is some tricky here. In the default configuration, basically there are two tables we are now talking about here: ASPState temp sessions and ASPStateTemp applications. The first table contains the application ID, and the second has the value stored as part of session ID column. So here I have application where I have this ID 17947711874, having this application name, and this is what the application name I have it now. So within the table, so there are other entries also you can having in the ASP session state temp sessions, because I have a lot of sessions having in my logins. So all the entries being stored in this particular table. So the session ID column is what we're interested here, the content of the ASPStateTempSessions table here, right? So coming to here, this particular table, I tried find out the app ID in session ID column, of course, but I didn't find any match here because almost all are having in a different format. But I didn't. I'm not sure like this is the session ID or another any unique ID kind of stuff, because I have a session ID here. If you look at here, this is what my session ID right now. 002B LDK2MP2JTV40X70NZTQX. This session ID is stored already. If you look at here, this is what the session ID. I'm just copying and pasting here. This is my session ID, but till this, my session ID. What about this thing, right? Because it is having another value as well, which is in different format. So the value of this particular app ID is this one. That's what I'm going to conclude with this session, right? So let's figure out like how it is going to, convert this actual value into another format of value, which is storing in this particular session ID column. So if you look at here, application ID was this one. So what it is doing is it is going to convert. So I'm just writing another query. Select app ID and star from no, the table was this one. This is what the condition I'm going to give it. When I run this, so I have app ID, right? Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this to this value, how this value is generated and how it is included as part of session ID column in the ASPStateTempSessions table. So what it will do is actually as part of hiding of this app ID, it will convert into a hexadecimal format. So if you want to see that value, just convert into var binary of 16 comma app ID. Now if you run this, then you'll see how it is generating. So this is my actual app ID, right? This is the value I generated. I was converted into a binary format, that is hexa format here. If I just copy here, and this is what the value you are seeing it. If you go and see here, sorry, session ID was TQX. I think X also there in part of this thing. This is the session ID, actual session ID of a ASP session, and this is what the value it is padding to your column here. Because if you look at in this ASPStateTempSessions table, so I have almost all session values including app ID. Okay, because my generally session ID length was let us say like select alien of dot. If I copy this and see, this is what my session ID usually having in place, right? This is what 24 characters length. But when I look at here, my session ID column is more than that. That is 32. That means eight characters are extra added here as part of ASPStateTempSessions column, right? So as part of internal secrecy or internal managing aspects, so the ASPStateDB will convert your app ID into hexadecimal. This is how it is converting here, and this is what the hexadecimal format. Okay, hexadecimal format, and it will omit this particular font OX that represents the hexadecimal, and then it will take remaining characters here, almost 8 characters. So, and that 8 characters are going to be converted to small lowercase and then padded to your session ID. That's how it is storing the app ID inside of your session ID in the ASPStateTempSessions table. That's why if you look at always in the ASPStateTempSessions, you always leave the last 8 characters, right? The last 8 characters are representing the app ID of your web application in hexadecimal format, right? So this is how it is maintaining secrecy for your application IDs configured in your IAS, and same ID is being added to your session ID and keeping in your session ID column of ASPStateTempSessions. So that's how you need to track your session IDs in the ASPStateTempSessions with the relevant with correlated to our app ID, right? I hope you understand like how session ID is having app ID and how app ID is hidden in the session ID column of ASPStateTempSessions table in the ASPStateDB. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe this channel for more videos. Thank you.